Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? So if you're wondering why I look a little bit put together today, I came back from work. October, what came in so fast, left ever so quickly, and now this is your sign to finally lock the fuck in. What's up, baddies? My name is Honey. I'm a aspiring social media literacy advocator where investing into what matters resonates with me. Let me tell you, October was not an easy month. It was, how do you say, not really my month. But with that being said, I like to upward spiral. First off, let's start off with what I've accomplished so far in the month of October. Firstly, I went to the museum. If you haven't seen the video yet, I did record a, I guess, day in my life going to the museum. And as always, the museum is so opulent, relaxing, basically my third place. Now, it's one of my beliefs to always have a third place to ourselves. If you haven't heard, the third place basically exists outside of the context of work/school and basically outside of the home life as well. The third place is an encouragement of social interaction, public interaction outside of the context of those two. We need our third place because it often motivates us to even push our boundaries of interacting with other people, staying on top of our stuff, being productive. It pushes those boundaries instead of, cradling it into a small bubble, into your own little personal bubble like a hermit. Now, most often, the third place can be a library, a cafe, your friend's apartment, anything that exists outside of the work/school or home life aspect. I bring this up because when I was back in my college town, my OG third place was usually a cafe place or a boba shop or usually my friend's apartment. Now that I'm back in my hometown, I like to surround myself in the museum because not only is it opulent, not only is it creative, but you're immersing yourself and surrounding yourself in a new environment where you're exposing yourself to the creative side and understanding the strokes of paintings, sculptures, and mostly expanding yourself in a cultural aspect. Next that I've accomplished in the month of October was tapping into my influencer career, y'all. I've been steadily adjusting into the aspects of social media influencership, from recording to creating deadlines to being really on top of my stuff and critically thinking as I go. I know some influencers don't like to plan their content calendar or content week to the T, but for me, I'm the type of person who needs to know what's going on, at least having a goal in mind during the week so I know what to pursue. Because I usually often struggle visualizing the future. So when I put things into action or I contextualize what I have a goal in mind, it helps me visualize my goals, if that kind of makes sense. Next is working on my savings account. Now, I know it may not be a lot to some people, but to me, it's a major step on growing as a person into financial literacy. I bring this up because I've been learning about the importance of a high yield savings account, better known as a HYSA, and a emergency funds account. So I've been following the pay yourself first mindset. So I have set up a automatic payment plan from extracting from my main bank account to my savings account. So it's more so like a out of sight, out of mind ideal. So I'm not really stressing myself out. I think growing up, I never had the opportunity to really expand my financial literacy, yet alone even understand the importance of money. In my household, growing up, money has been looked down upon because it's always considered as the bane of all evil. When in actuality, it's just like your phone, a tool, or just like X, Y, and Z, it's a tool, an asset at your own disposal. It just depends on how you use that. Is it an asset or a liability? What I've been learning from a lot of financial literacy content creators on YouTube is that they've been destigmatizing the power of money. Because instead of allowing money to be a powerhouse, they use it as a way as a worker. More so making money work in our favor. Also, I'll include some financial literacy content creators I've been watching too, and some channels I also recommend. Another thing I've been also working on too, and I'm also kind of super proud of, is expanding my language learning goals and intellect. For example, I've been learning and expanding my English vocabulary, such as high level vocab words. Next, I've also been working on my Spanish grammar and vocabulary as well, but I'm not really fluent in that aspect yet, just to put it out there. Another thing too is I've also been expanding my Tagalog pronunciation and vocabulary and grammar structures as well. When it comes to the Filipino language, it's closely tied to Spanish as well because there is some borrowed words and some of the grammar structure is kind of similar. However, with Tagalog or even my dialect, which is Bisaya, um, there's really no gender. So sometimes there's just really some words taken from Spanish. It's like Spanish has gender for the words, but for Philippine, like the Filipino language, there is not. So it's like a very eye-opening type of thing, you know? The reason why I'm expanding myself and expanding my vocabulary and just learning basically um, is when you graduate from college, when you graduate from college, you're usually stuck in that, well, do I really need to learn X, Y, and Z? Because then your brain is placed into a use it or lose it mode, basically. So if you're not actively learning, you kind of lose that growth or aspect of wanting to learn. And when you're learning new languages, you're surrounding yourself to new opportunities and yet alone even cultures as well. For example, like think of think of language barriers as opportunities to go past that. There was a moment at my job that I wasn't able to speak in Spanish, unfortunately, because I am still learning. However, that's a missed opportunity and a missed opportunity due to a language barrier because I was not able to speak in Spanish. But had I known how to at least grasp the basic understanding of Spanish, I'd be able to service the customer and help them understand where I'm trying to communicate, where we both go to a level of mutual understanding. Because when you put yourself through uncomfortable learning moments, you're actively pushing yourself to grow as a person. It's usually a sign of you growing into who you need to become as a successful person. Knowledge is power when it's best applied. With October wrapping up with the overarching message, time in the market beats timing the market. This phrase was pulled from a content creator. I'll link her info somewhere here if I could remember. But with that being said, I had searched it up on Google. It's also like a very basic concept when it comes to financial literacy or even stock investments that if you put in the effort or you put in the time, it's better for that because you're constantly growing your portfolio and you're growing as a person versus in timing when it's going to be a perfect opportunity because we'll never know the perfect opportunity until we try. I resonate with this quote so much because as much as we can stay stuck in the creative paralysis and or the planning phase of X, Y, and Z, when will we know that we can do X, Y, and Z until we put forth our actions, our words, our execution? Yes, it's always scary to make the first step, but how will you know until you try, until you make that first step in life? We're always afraid that things will never work in our favor, but with that mentality, how do you know if it will work for you in your favor? I know that sounds a little run on sentence, but what I'm trying to say is that we can spend time worrying about it's never going to work out. It's never going to work out. With that mentality, upward spiral. It's going to work out. It will work out. And what if it works out? Everything works out in your favor because you exist with the ideas. It will never be perfect. But because of that, perfection lies in the beauty of uniqueness. As much as we want to spend time micro managing every single detail in the plan, we need to take that first step. And then we need to improve as a person when we move on. Trust me, I used to be stuck in a creative paralysis where I compared myself to X, Y, and Z, from my content creator friends to my mutuals to my even friends, to my close family members. It never works out. With that being said, it's like comparing apples to books. They both serve their purpose, but in different ways. Carrying with that same analogy as a book, you can compare yourself. I'll compare myself. I'll compare my past versions of myself with a previous book edition. I have made major or slash and minor improvements, but that does not mean I'm never going to stop growing as a person. The only time you can ever compare is to your past version. So don't ever compare yourself to another person because that's quite literally comparing yourself to a book, to an apple, to an X, Y, and Z. It doesn't make sense. So if I were to tell my younger self about this, doing X, Y, and Z is way more, much more better than worrying if it's never gonna work out, if you're never gonna make it. I will say this, the most outlandish people are usually the successful ones because they exist without the context of rules. They stand out because they don't listen to the rules. they create their own rules, and they're working on a different playing field. That is who we need to be. We need to be bold and compassionate with ourselves. Now here comes to the biggest part of today's video, vision boarding and unlocking your winter arc this winter. So you've heard of the law of attraction from Amber Shaw, then you've heard of manifestations from the wizard Liz, and lastly, you've heard of the lucky girl syndrome from Tam Carr. Well, let me tell you, I bring together those three concepts into one ideology, which is creating vision boards every month. I do monthly vision boards because they separate my goals for the entire year into 12 vision boards, into 12 micro vision boards that accomplish my goals at the end of the year. They motivate me, they keep me in check, and they remind me who I need to be in order to become who I need to be. For this month's message, I'm also going off script. For this month's message, it will be based off letting go, realization, and reflection. With that being said, I am so appreciative of who I am, of who I surround myself with, of the love I give. But I think for this month, it's time for us, this includes you, to finally focus on ourselves. I think it's a high time to finally tap into who we need to become. We need to give ourselves some time to love ourselves. We need to give some TLC, tender love and care. And we need to allow ourselves to be okay with solitude. With that being said, I am so ready to accept more gifts from the universe. Like, universe, give it to me. Give me that dollar. Anyways, if you want to hear a little tidbit of what I'm doing, and you can also work on this too, for the month of November, I will be working on the following. I'm also going to read it right here because I'm not really good at remembering. Going to the museum at least once, expanding my knowledge in Spanish, specifically focusing on estar and ser verbs, know the basic vocabs for Tagalog such as daily words, expand English vocabulary by acquiring 10 more words, have at least $100 saved on Chime, have at least $150 saved on Amex, working on my LVMH certificate, upload at least 6 videos on YouTube, have at least one UGC PR collab video either on Instagram or TikTok. Lastly, finishing the portrait of Dorian Gray. I love making these types of videos because they allow me to reflect on who I need to become, y'all. Like, yes, we can make the visions, we can plan the X, Y, and Z's, we can execute them, but how do we know if we're successful if we're not reflecting and looking back to our past version? Very ENTJ of me, but I found a quote slash wallpaper that kind of resonates, so I'm gonna save it right now. The quote for this month is, choose yourself, you got shit to do. That is a quote that I kind of really like. I got shit to do, but I need to choose myself, y'all. Anyways, thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, let me know. And let me know any suggestions you want to watch too as well. Or you want to indulge, let me know. Also, let me know some of your goals for November as well. I love hearing what you guys say because I kind of be peeping. I'm like, oh, this is what they like? Yes. Anyways, with that being said, I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all. Bye.